Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep. As you know, we've been working on stiffening up the frame here for the Scorpion Crawler project, and we're finally down to the last 12 inches or so. All of these pieces have been multiple pieces, but in the end it all looks like one seamless long frame strengthener. So today I want to show you how I go about doing that, making it look seamless. We're going to take this and make it look like this. As you can see, it looks like one solid piece all the way from the rear end to the front end, so stay tuned.
I'm dangerous and aware of my surroundings, constantly improving, fit I am surviving, push my thumb behind the eye, carefully remove the wires, clean my wounds to the side, I'm alive and I'm dangerous, yeah I'm dangerous.
Okay, so on the front part of the frame here, what I've done is taken some Rough Stuff Specialties frame strengtheners. Those normally go down here in the middle. I've modified them to fit the front of the frame up here, and the reason we're doing that is because I'm going to be adding shock hoops, completely different suspension. There's going to be a lot of stress up front here. I want to make sure that it's solid when I'm off road rock crawling. So the Rough Stuff Specialties frame strengtheners look like this. I didn't make a video on this, but if you're interested in seeing how I did that, I have some pictures on the Facebook page. Basically, I just cut notches everywhere I needed to make a bend. I bent it out. Anywhere I needed to make a bend to the other direction, I cut notches down here, bent it, because there's a lot of bends in that frame right there. And you kind of could see that too whenever I did the 4-link brackets for the bottom. I had to bend those. It's pretty much the same thing that I did down there. So today we're just finishing up with the JCR bumper strengtheners. I forget what they call those, but I could have made this bracket on my own, but I had these laying around anyway from a previous project, and they fit perfectly. They already have all the holes drilled where I need them, and we're just going to basically weld the two together, finish it off nicely. Let's go over to the other side. Alright, first step is to get this prepped for welding. So I'll just hold it up here where it needs to go. I'll mark the frame with a Sharpie. So we're going to get rid of all of the paint, any dirt and grime on the frame, and then also on the bracket. Alright, now take your grinder with the flap wheel on it. Basically that is just a wheel with a bunch of sandpaper pieces on it. We're going to take this down about 1 inch either side of that line. Now on the bracket, I'm going to take it down to bare metal. I don't really have to, but I prefer to. I'm also going to bevel the edges where it's going to weld. I found that if you bevel the edges, this is a lot thicker than the frame, so if you bevel the edges towards you, I'll show you here in a minute, but that's going to give me a lot nicer weld than if I were to try to weld this top of this flat piece to that thinner stuff. Alright, so right here is where I'm going to weld. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to bevel it towards me. So there it is, basically just like sharpening a lawnmower blade. Now I wouldn't normally do that, but since the metals are different thicknesses, I've just found that it makes for a better looking weld. Now let me explain a little bit better before I move on, because I know people are going to gripe at me about what I just said there. But anytime you weld two pieces of metal together flat like this, where you butt them up next to each other, you want to bevel both edges so that you have this little V for the pedal to sit in. That'll give you better weld and a good penetration, and it'll look really good too. So that's opposed to if you just did it like this, you'd have a giant puddle that just sat up there and it wouldn't get good penetration, as opposed to having a V sitting right here. Now if you're welding two pieces though that are like this, normally you wouldn't have to bevel that at all. You just lay your bead right down there and it would work out pretty good. Now what I'm doing is welding like this. It's basically the same thing as I just showed you, and you could just lay your bead right down there. If the metals were the same gauge, that would be no problem, but since in my case this outer one is a lot thicker than the inner one, it seems to help if I bevel that top one. This one is the thinner one. That way this one gets a little thinner at the top where it meets, so they're both about the same gauge when you weld them together right there, and it makes it look a lot nicer in my opinion. Now I'm not a welder, so if you're looking for actual strength advice as far as penetration and structural integrity, I can't help you there, but that's just my experience. Oh, one more thing. If you're welding two pieces together like this, but you're welding it from the outside, what you can do is just separate those pieces a little bit so that it's not one on top of another like this, but you're actually putting them corner to corner, I guess you could say. You can kind of see a little air gap through there. That's the way you would want to weld if you were welding from the outside like this. That way you create your own V with the two pieces of metal. Alright guys, now check it out. I've got this gap right here, and the reason for this gap is because the frame transitions from 3 corners over here to just 2 corners. So there's this funky piece of the frame where you couldn't get both of these to meet up perfectly. That's why it looks like it does. Now on the other side, I just filled all that with weld. And I could do that on this side too. This side's a little bit bigger gap though than the other side. So I could fill all this with weld. It would take quite a long time. Probably wouldn't be as strong as if we did this. So what I'm going to do, I went into my scrap pile. I found this piece that fits perfectly right here. I'll just take it over and cut it off somewhere right about here. And we'll weld that in there. And then there'll be less gap to fill. I've also got this little piece, which I can weld in right here. Let's see. Probably need to cut that off a little bit too. And then we'll clean it up from there. I might need a little piece down in here too, because that's a pretty big area to fill in, although it can be done. Alright, I know it looks like crap now, but just give it a minute. I turned the heat up, and now I'm going to melt all that in there. Okay, weld looks good through here. It's really penetrated deep. Now, I can still see though that there is a divot. There's like a valley right there. So I need to go over that a few more times until this is built up. It's kind of like Bondo. We want it to be built up higher, and then we'll be able to grind it down flat and smooth. That's looking good. I need to go ahead and do the gap right here on the bottom, and then I'll come back and show you grinding that off. Are you ready to make it look pretty again? What's the secret? The secret is this 40 grit flat disc on the angle grinder. Now if I had to use 80 grit or anything finer than that, this would take all day long, but with this 40 grit, it just peels it off pretty darn quick. So I'm going to put my protective equipment on. We'll get started. Alright guys, well there it is, 3 minutes later. It looks like one solid piece of steel there. Now, it's kind of hard to see. I'm trying to get a good camera and lighting angle, but hopefully you can see that. That metal is so shiny it's hard to photograph. Anyway, I need to get underneath and lay down on my back and do that bottom part. That's real fun. But other than that, we're all finished up here. As you can see, I've also replaced that front support that holds the radiator. So now I think the next step will be to figure out the front end, maybe make a bumper for the winch. I'm going to try to keep it up high. That's the reason I got rid of this, is because the stock support actually comes all the way down to here. This piece isn't part of the support, this is just holding the Jeep up right now. But so I've got it all the way up here, which will give me a lot more clearance for my front axle to move up and down. If I get it out this far, I'm not sure that I will, but it'll be a lot more ground clearance too for rocks and stuff. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more videos like this. If you enjoyed it, hit the thumbs up and do subscribe. It's free. And we'll see you in the next video.